What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jimmy Talks. Today, I want to talk about a topic that's been buzzing around workplaces and online discussions: why employers seem to have a problem with Gen Z. Those of you born between 97 and 2012. If you're a Gen Z, you probably heard the complaints. You're lazy, entitled, or just don't fit into today's workforce. But is that really the whole story? Let's break it down by looking at how workplace culture has evolved over generations, how companies have changed, and what's making it so hard to land a job today. This isn't about pointing fingers either. It's about understanding the bigger picture. To start, let's go back to the silent generation, born between 1928 and 1945. These were the folks who grew up during the Great Depression and World War II. They valued stability and loyalty above all else. In their time, workplace culture was rigid. You joined a company, often right out of school, and you stayed there for decades. Employers offered steady pay, promotions based on seniority, and pensions. Retirement plans fully funded by the company. People didn't job hop because the system rewarded sticking around. Next came the baby boomers, born from 1946 to 1964. They entered their workforce during a booming economy. Workplace culture started to shift as businesses grew and competition increased. Boomers were ambitious and hardworking, often putting in long hours. They still expected loyalty from employers, though, and many got it. Pensions were still common, and companies invested in their employees. But cracks were starting to form. By the 1980s, corporate greed began to take root. Deregulation, tax cuts for the wealthy, and a focus on shareholder value over employee welfare changed the game. Companies started caring more about profits than people. Then we have Gen X, born between 1965 and 1980. They hit the workforce as this greed ramped up. Pensions began fading away, replaced by 401k plans, which shifted retirement savings onto employees, made them take all the risk. Gen X adapted. They became independent, skeptical of corporate loyalty, and more willing to switch jobs for better pay or conditions. Workplace culture grew less formal, and technology started creeping in, but jobs were still attainable with hard work and a decent resume. Millennials, from 1981 to 1996, faced a different world. The 2008 financial crisis hit just as many were starting their careers. Companies, now obsessed with cutting costs, turned to outsourcing, sending jobs to countries with cheaper labor. Entry-level positions got harder to find and wages began to stagnate, meaning pay didn't keep up with rising costs. Millennials pushed back, demanding flexibility and purpose in their work, but they were often mislabeled as whiny or unrealistic. Workplace culture became more tech-driven, with open offices and remote options, but the stability of past generations was now long gone. Now, let's talk about Gen Z. By 2025, they're entering a workforce that's shaped by decades of change. Companies are leaner and greedier than ever. Since the 80s, factors like globalization, tax policies favoring the rich, and a relentless focus on quarterly profits have turned businesses into machines that prioritize shareholder value over employee well-being. Pensions, almost extinct. Only about 13% of private sector workers had them by 2020, down from 50% in the 80s. Instead, they handed out a 401k, where the employee bears the risk and hopes the stock market doesn't crash. Outsourcing is everywhere. Manufacturing, customer service, even white-collar jobs like IT and accounting are shipped overseas to save money. I know you've called customer service before and you hear some foreign accent that doesn't really know what they're doing and doesn't help you fix anything. No one likes hearing that. So, why do employers think Gen Z is the worst workforce? It's not entirely fair, but here's what they say. Some claim they lack work ethic, pointing to their focus on work-life balance over grinding 60-hour weeks. Others say they're too tech-reliant, expecting instant results in a world that still values slow climbs. There's also the perception that they're entitled, asking for raises or flexibility early on, which clashes with older generations' pay your dues kind of mindset. Data backs some of this up as well. A 2023 survey by Resume Builder found 74% of managers felt Gen Z was harder to work with than other generations, citing poor communication or low motivation. But let's be real, these traits aren't unique to Gen Z. They're shaped by the world that they inherited. Job searches are a nightmare now, and artificial intelligence is the big reason why. AI filters resumes before a human even sees them. If your application doesn't match the algorithm's keywords, say goodbye. A 2024 study by Harvard Business Review estimated that 75% of resumes are rejected by AI systems, even for qualified candidates. Worse, hiring itself is often outsourced to foreign firms. Recruiters in other countries, unfamiliar with local job markets, skim applications or ghost applicants entirely. The process is impersonal and broken. Entry-level jobs, which used to be stepping stones, now demand years of experience or advanced degrees. A 2022 report from the Birding Glass Institute found that 61% of entry-level postings required 3 or more years of experience, up from 29% a decade ago. How are you supposed to break into an entry-level job with 3 to 4 years of experience? That goes against the term entry-level. Then there's the economy. Wages have barely budged. Adjusted for inflation, median US wages grew just 0.4% annually from 1980 to 2020, while CEO pay has increased over 1,300% in the same period. Inflation keeps climbing. By March 2025, the cost of groceries, rent, and gas is squeezing everyone. Meanwhile, AI isn't just screening resumes, it's also taking jobs. Retail, trucking, even creative fields like writing and design are seeing automation creep in. A 2023 McKinsey report predicted that by 2030, up to 30% of jobs could be automated, hitting entry-level roles the hardest. Gen Z is stuck competing for fewer gigs in a system that's stacked against them. Employers might hate Gen Z because they're pushing back. You've seen the silent generation's loyalty rewarded with pensions, boomers' hard work met with some stability, and Gen X and Millennials adapt to shrinking opportunities. But for Gen Z, the deal's raw. Low pay, no security, and a job market that's a mess. They're not wrong to demand better. Companies got greedy, outsourcing and automating away the middle class. Pensions vanished, wages stalled, and AI made it even harder to get a foot in the door. The workplace has shifted from a contract of mutual benefit to a one-sided game where you're expected to hustle for less. So what's the takeaway? Employers might pin the blame on you, but the truth is, they're mad because Gen Z is not playing by the rules that don't work anymore. We're not lazy, we're just not buying into a system that's been crumbling since the 80s. Understanding this history, from the silent generation to now, shows it's not just about us. It's about decades of greed, tech, and a world that's left young workers scrambling. Keep pushing because the workplace needs to catch up, not the other way around. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. With all that, Jimmy Talks out.
Into the river, Dimitri. It's our only chance.